So when we started at Corman, we had a we had besides super speeds, which I love because, I didn't really know how to light much. And I was very influenced by Robbie Miller. And I had come off a set of Barfly, which he shot everything wide open. And Frieder was the gaffer, and that's the first time they used like neon tubes uh, before KinoFlow. Later Frieder developed KinoFlow as a company. And I went back to Janusz, who was my gaffer at the time we were shooting Streets or Dance of the Damned, this love story between a vampire and a stripper. And I go like, we got to use these tubes. And I would shoot everything wide open. My poor assistant, Jeff Porter. But that's how Robbie Miller was shooting. So anyway, I was always, I loved, the old glass and the vintage lenses and the high speed, and I would love wide open. And so then I my first after Corman, one of my first, let's say, bigger movies was Poison Ivy, which was New Line, and suddenly we went from $300,000 to 5 million budget, and I could get Panavision and a great time because they had just come out. Like I never used zooms, but they had this Primo zoom as 4:1, which was 17 to 75 millimeter, and it was a 2.8, and I really got into the Panavision glass, all spherical, and I started really liking Panavision. And um, Phil Radin, who was the vice president at the time, was super supportive of all the young filmmakers. And even if I had a movie that didn't have a budget, he goes like, "How much do you have a week?" I ended up with a Panavision package and and all these lenses, all these Primo lenses that were brand new then, and so I really kind of switched to Panavision that I stayed with. I must say, for 25 years or my entire career really, because they were, just great. And then having Dan Sasaki and those people who are like these incredible lens technicians, and they're really very helpful and supportive. I mean, of course, Aries also, and I mean, being from Munich, and I always have, and then so I switched to digital at some point, and went, Alexa and all that. So I kind of had to come back to, but the lenses, I stayed always for the glass. I stayed at Panavision, but I do remember my first anamorphic show because we could never really afford them. Because even back then, when they were supportive and giving you packages, the anamorphics were always like a bit harder to get because, Owen Roisman and Conrad Hall and Alan Davio, like they had them for these big shows, and they've started making more, but like it took me a while to do anamorphic. And I remember $1 Million Hotel, I did the test that they called the $1 million test because I did anamorphic C series, but I also shot Super 35 and just extracted. We were doing 3 perf. Um, you could even do 2 perf, but and then I projected it all, and we had proceeded with Super 35. But then when I projected it and I saw it and on a big screen, I go, "Oh my God, that's like really these C series anamorphics are so gorgeous." And like it's really like so. I swapped out the whole package like a week before the shoot, and that was really the beginning. I mean, once I went to C series Panavision anamorphics, I really got addicted to them. And it's like I didn't really need to test any other lenses, so every movie I just defaulted to those, and I did many movies on that. Um, and then once large format came out, I was the first one to actually say I want to stay with my anamorphics. Is there a way to do it? And then Dan Sasaki said, "Well, yeah, I can expand them." So on Ford versus Ferrari was the first prototypes that of expanded C series and B series um, anamorphics, and that was a look that I even like loved even more. And that's when it all started. When they were, a lot of people were doubtful about whether we should take all these beautiful C series and expand them, because now that for example, the Alexa 35 is out, now they're going, oh, a lot of these sets have been converted, and now, but anyway, now there are more and more manufacturers that are doing large format lenses, and but yeah, I just love that glass. And then I guess the next evolution of that was, because then Indiana Jones and Dario I did with T series anamorphics, because I wanted close focus, and they're a little newer, and actually you can shoot them a little wider open. Like the C's, I could never open up more than a 4-stop, because then they really fall apart, and top and bottom, and so I went T's, but then the T's were a bit maybe too clean and too soft. And then for Rodrigo on Killers of the Flower Moon, he developed like vintage T's. But anyway, what Dan did for me, because I told him my concerns, he basically, I have series 1 of 1 again on A Complete Unknown, the Dylan movie, and that's like a hybrid of B front elements and C's and rear T elements. So I have the close focus and the mechanics of a T, but I have the glass and the vintage looks and the flare characteristics and the bending and the specular flaring that he even said, do you want warm flares? So they're kind of like a customized set, which is really, really beautiful. And these lenses are gorgeous. And I asked him just 2 days ago, are you going to expand on this set, or is it going to stay 1 of 1? But it is basically, these are prototypes of what's going to be the new compact C anamorphics at Panavision, which he's developing on, which will cover large format, but are basically C glass rehoused. And so this is, again, Ford versus Ferrari. We kind of broke new grounds, and then this one is again, like, and Dan Sasaki has been incredibly helpful, But again, I'm now more and more manufacturers like Hawk and Coral that has these ones here, these Coral second reefs that I own a couple sets of, which are 1.5 expand, and um, it's always nice to explore new glass and new looks, because those lenses on a complete unknown, or maybe not a look for everyone. I mean, the flaring is quite intense, and the bending is still pretty strong, and the fall off and the vignetting, which is something I was looking for that project, but that sometimes that's not always the desired look. And then, I do also love these K35s, which are, of course, vintage glass cannons that are spherical, but also have very beautiful similar qualities. These are rehoused also by Panavision, by Dan Sasaki, and he's tweaked the glass and the elements that they actually look like, they feel very similar in terms of their color and softness to the C series anamorphics. So like on Trial of the Chicago 7, I sometimes, I go to a spherical for certain situations, and he kind of tried to match him, to like the anamorphics that I had on that. And anyway, these sets are now in Greece for the first time, so it's great. With lovely people, Vasily and everybody from Arctos, and very supportive. And Max, thank you for bringing the lenses to this country, and hopefully the filmmakers and the cinematographers of the GC will have fun exploring these lenses and putting them to good use and telling very nice stories with them over the next years.